Call 911 now! She's turning blue! Bernard Kellerman shouted as he dropped his mop onto the floor and sprinted forward. Gasps erupted across the executive boardroom. Just minutes earlier, Alexandra Ashcroft, the billionaire CEO of Ashcroft Holdings in the heart of Philadelphia, had been standing at the head of the long oak conference table, her voice firm and steady as she presented the quarterly numbers. Then, mid-sentence, she stopped. Her hand rose to her chest. Her breath faltered. The room plunged into a terrifying silence as her body convulsed once, twice, then collapsed to the floor. At first, no one believed it. The executives froze. 7 men and women in suits worth more than Bernard earned in an entire year. Someone muttered, "She's joking." Another whispered, "Oh God, call security." Then the truth hit. Alexandra Ashcroft wasn't moving. Her lips were turning purple. But Bernard didn't hesitate. He pushed through the door, forcing his way past a wall of expensive perfume and luxury suits. "Bernard! What are you doing?" someone barked. "You don't belong in here," another snapped. "Get out." "I know CPR," Bernard shouted, but no one cared. Alexandra lay on her side, one arm limp across her chest, her lips shifting into a terrifying gray-blue. She wasn't breathing. Bernard dropped to his knees beside her. "Ms. Ashcroft, can you hear me?" he whispered, panic rising in his throat. He pressed 2 fingers to her neck. No pulse. Then he acted. He had once taken a free CPR class at the West Philadelphia Community Center just to get a food voucher. But in this moment, the instructor's voice echoed louder in his mind than anything else in that room. If they're not breathing, you are their lungs. He tilted her head back, pinched her nose, and leaned down. "Is he kissing her?" someone shrieked. "That's disgusting!" another cried. "Get him off her!" A sharp pain tore across Bernard's back. Someone had swung something hard. Maybe a security baton, maybe an umbrella. Straight into him. He groaned, but he didn't stop. He continued. 2 breaths, then he locked his hands together. Chest compressions. 1, 2, 3, 4. Another blow landed hard on his shoulder. He winced, but he kept counting, kept pressing. "You filthy janitor," someone hissed. "Don't touch her." The boardroom exploded into chaos around him, but Bernard stayed anchored. His arms burned, his back throbbed, his eyes stung. But he did not stop. "Don't," he whispered through clenched teeth. "Don't die like this." 25, 26, 27. Someone grabbed his shoulder and yanked him back. Bernard tore himself free, continued compressions, then leaned down for 2 more breaths. Suddenly, Alexandra's chest jerked violently. She coughed hard, then sucked in air like someone being pulled from the bottom of the ocean. Her eyelids fluttered. She was breathing. Bernard collapsed, his whole body trembling. His back is burning. His shoulders are raw. His hands are numb. But she was alive. He had saved her. The expensive suits swarmed her now, tripping over themselves in clumsy panic. "Ms. Ashcroft, Alexandra, stay with us." The boardroom doors burst open, and paramedics rushed in. They took over, lifting Alexandra onto the stretcher. One of them turned back and asked, "Who started CPR?" "I did," Bernard said, voice weak. He didn't get to say anything more before a tall man with silver hair stepped forward, his badge reading Tyler Brigham, CFO. His face twisted with disgust. "What's your name?" he demanded. "Bernard Kellerman," he said, standing up straight. "I'm a janitor." "You put your mouth on Ms. Ashcroft," the man said, as if Bernard had contaminated the CEO rather than saved her life. "She wasn't breathing," Bernard replied. "I'll be reviewing the security footage," the CFO snapped. "You need to leave immediately and do not return until contacted." Bernard's throat tightened. His back still throbbed. He looked around at the executives whose boss he had just saved from dying in front of them. Not a single thank you. Bernard bent down, grabbed his bucket with trembling hands, and pushed it out of the boardroom. Each step felt heavier than the last. But Bernard had no idea. The moment he walked out that door, something entirely different was unfolding inside the hospital. Something that would change his life forever. If you're following this story, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next chapters, where the truth behind Alexandra Ashcroft's collapse will shock you even more. That night, Bernard sat hunched in a hard bus seat, swallowed up by the crowd, his back curved as if he were trying to fold into himself and disappear from the world. City lights streaked past the window, stretching into long, blurred lines that reflected across his eyes both exhausted and hollow. By the time the bus dropped him off in his familiar neighborhood, night had already swallowed everything. The air held only the distant rumble of a freight train and the lively shouts of kids playing baseball in the alley, sounds that felt as though they belonged to a life far removed from his own. Molly ran to meet him at the door, barefoot, clutching her worn-out teddy bear. "You're home late," she said in a tiny, worried voice. "Are you okay, Daddy?" "I'm okay, sweetheart," Bernard answered, a lie he had grown far too used to saying. "Just a crazy day at work." Dinner was reheated mac and cheese and leftover stir-fried vegetables. Molly chattered about school, and Bernard nodded here and there, though his mind was still trapped somewhere inside that cold boardroom from earlier that morning. When Janet Holloway, the neighbor who watched Molly on night shifts, waved goodbye to head home, Bernard forced a smile, even though his lips felt heavy. When Molly fell asleep, he lay down on the thin mattress, listening to the heater sputter in the dark. His fingers brushed the bruise along his back, sharp, throbbing pain. He closed his eyes, but the image of Alexandra Ashcroft lying unconscious beneath his hands replayed over and over like an overexposed film. He had saved a woman's life, and yet all they saw was a poor janitor, a single father who dared to touch a billionaire. He didn't know that moment, the moment he breathed life back into someone fading away, was about to change his entire future. Just not in the way he hoped. The next morning, Bernard Kellerman stood in front of the Ashcroft Holdings Tower, wearing the same gray uniform he had pulled on for the past 3 months. The sun had barely risen, its soft amber light spilling across the plaza. He tightened his grip around his lunch bag, a plastic grocery sack holding a peanut butter sandwich, a bruised apple, and the hope that things would go back to normal. He took a deep breath and stepped toward the revolving door. But before he could touch the handle, an arm shot out in front of him. "Sir, you can't enter," the security guard said, his voice flat and emotionless. Bernard blinked. "What? I work here. Night shift. I'm on the 22nd floor." The guard didn't even look at him. "I was instructed not to let you in." A cold shiver ran down Bernard's spine. "Why?" I didn't do anything wrong." "Contact Human Resources," the man replied, turning away as if the matter were already settled. Bernard stood frozen at the entrance. The morning wind cut through his thin jacket as streams of office workers walked past him without stopping. He felt like a shadow, unseen when working, and now pushed completely out of sight. He circled around to the side entrance, clinging to the faint hope that this was all just a misunderstanding. Maybe someone forgot to update his shift schedule. Maybe they needed to talk to him about the CPR. Maybe, at the service desk, the night shift supervisor looked up, surprised. "Bernard Kellerman? Wait here." Bernard waited in the narrow hallway beside the row of staff lockers. His name was still written on locker number 7 in messy black marker, crooked, familiar. 10 minutes later, the supervisor returned. In his hand was a sealed envelope. His face was expressionless. "You're terminated," he said. Bernard felt something inside him snap, clean and brutal, like someone breaking a bone in his chest. "Terminated? But why? What did I do?" The supervisor shrugged. "HR said it's for inappropriate conduct involving senior personnel." "That's all I know." Bernard's hands trembled as he opened the envelope. Inside was a termination letter and his final paycheck. No severance, no further explanation. Just the words. Employment ended immediately. The phrase inappropriate conduct echoed in his skull like an alarm siren. Bernard stood there for a long time, in that narrow hallway, a single door closing behind him as neatly as a verdict. Back outside, life carried on as if nothing had happened. People in suits sipped their lattes, taxi horns blared, phones rang non-stop, and Bernard walked like an empty shell. He didn't remember how many blocks he passed. Everything blurred together. They think I did something wrong. They think I... He slumped onto a bus stop bench, his legs giving out beneath him. His phone buzzed. A message from a coworker, a screenshot, the group chat. See that? That janitor creep was all over Miss Ashcroft when she passed out. Looked like he was kissing her. Another, disgusting. Was that assault? Bernard's chest tightened. His fingers went cold. They had twisted the truth. CPR. The breaths that saved her life. They had turned it into something vile. His phone buzzed again. A blurry security cam still. But clear enough to hurt. Bernard is leaning down toward Alexandra Ashcroft. A moment of saving a life turned into damning evidence. Bernard let the phone drop onto his thigh. Above him, a giant billboard showed Alexandra Ashcroft smiling powerfully beside the slogan, Integrity, Vision, Leadership. He felt sick. The bus carried him back to the dim apartment in West Philadelphia. Molly ran out. You're home early? They fired me. Her eyes widened. Why? I don't know. He forced a smile. Just a misunderstanding. Janet watched him from the kitchen counter, the TV muted. You look like you've seen a ghost. I'm fine, Janet, Bernard replied. Another lie. Just tired. Night fell. He lay staring into the darkness, heater sputtering like it was complaining. Somewhere in the hallway, an argument erupted. Then a child cried softly. Life carried on, except Bernard's felt frozen in place. He turned his phone on. Messages kept flooding in. A voice message from the girl at the service department. Hey, I'm not sure what happened, but people are saying you did something inappropriate with Ms. Ashcroft. Maybe you should stay quiet for a while. He turned the phone off. Let it fall onto the mattress. Inappropriate. Such an easy word when people want to believe the worst. Bernard closed his eyes, remembering the moment Alexandra's chest jerked back to life under his hands, the first breath returning to her. He had saved someone. And now they treated him as if his hands were too poor, too dirty, too low to have the right to save a life. He buried his face in the pillow and cried. Saving someone should have been a good thing. But in this city, in this world, it was his own life being erased. Tomorrow, he would have to look for another job, knock on doors, clean whichever place would hire him. But tonight, the injustice was too heavy to bear. And he had no way of knowing that, high above the city in a penthouse glowing with soft lights, Alexandra Ashcroft jolted awake from a nightmare, clutching her chest, heart pounding, the echo of a strange voice pulling her back from the darkness. She just didn't know his name yet. Alexandra Ashcroft sat on the edge of her king-size bed, her entire body drenched in sweat. The early morning light slipped through the thin curtains of her penthouse, casting a soft but chilly pale gold wash across the room. Her heart pounded wildly in her chest as though it were trying to burst through her ribs. The nightmare had returned. The fourth night in a row. In it, she stood suspended in a pitch-black void, suffocating, her arms reaching out in desperate grasping. No light, no sound, only emptiness swallowing everything whole. Then suddenly, it appeared again. The voice. A man's voice, trembling yet steady, cutting through the darkness. Come on, breathe, come back. Each time she jolted awake, gasping as if dragged out of deep water, and each time, the name of the man behind that voice slipped through her memory before she could catch it. leaving only a familiar pull lingering in her chest. Alexandra rubbed her face, sat for one more breath, then rose, walking barefoot across the cool marble floor into the kitchen. The coffee machine beeped softly. The brew had been scheduled since the night before. Her assistant always ensured perfection down to the minute. As the rich scent of coffee filled the air, Alexandra leaned against the counter.